Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11, and we're playing as Germany, and we're kicking Yugoslavia's butt. Let's continue that. And we've won down in Split. We're defeating some Greeks that have moved up to Yugoslavia. And we are trying to take out these guys. We're going to go into pure defensive for the moment because although we don't really want to destroy all the Swedish forces, we're just trying to puppet them. Spoils of war, I hope so. Create a new construction zone, okay. Okay, occupy the Channel Islands, proceed, leave them. We'll occupy them. Gibraltar, or Gibraltarian civilians. Okay, I don't know. Are they called Gibraltarians? Not that I know of, but Gibraltarians. Don't know. Is Waynehead watching? What do you guys call yourself? At least sometimes it's from Gibraltar. Our trusted sources indicate that in early June 1940, about 13,500 civilians have been evacuated from Gibraltar to Casablanca in French Morocco following the French capitulation and attack on Mirs al-Kabir. The Vichy government found their presence an embarrassment. In late June 1940, 15 British cargo vessels arrived in Casablanca, repatriating 15,000 French servicemen who had been rescued from Dunkirk once the French troops had disembarked. The ships were interred until it was agreed to take away the evacuees, who were reflecting tensions generated after the Mirs al-Kabir were escorted to ships at Bayonet Point, minus many of their possessions. So the French robbed them. Okay, good job, French, robbing the Gibraltar people. The Spanish I understand because they hate the people living in Gibraltar, but so they gained some. Vichy gains manpower from them. Okay. Soler appointed as Spanish Foreign Minister. Yeah, that's what I thought he was. I had never looked that up. Whose brother-in-law to Francisco Franco. He was head of the Phalange, architect of the 1938 law of censorship, and successfully Minister of the Interior and the Press and Minister of External Affairs. Sooner was proactive proponent of Spain joining the Axis. Yes, he is most assuredly was, and was the, like I said, the head of the Phalangist party. Now we can look at well, maybe we want to do intelligence. So the communion traditionalist, the Phalange, and the Phalange traditionalistia, traditional conistia. Okay, I don't really know who that is. Opposed to that, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know, because I know of the Phalange, and I've often seen it spelled PH, but so they have what, one cabinet minister right now. Qualifies for one. So does that. Now these other guys are really may very much represent political feeling, but are really not people, to my understanding, holding office or allowed to have parties, active parties. So that seems about right. The Phalange was a minority type element within Spain, or in the Spanish. On the Spanish right, I should say. The sort of traditionalists, nationalists, was much more the majority feeling. carrier out, but I want to focus on other things first. I know we're starting to do some of these, but let's do that. Yeah, some of those create maybe upgrading other units. We can wait a little bit. Yeah, you're cut off. Big deal. You're going there, which will get you a... That's a better way to go. We've got a major victory, yay, up here, okay. These guys are attacking, okay. Gotta keep you moving because you're gonna go south into Greece and you gotta be close enough, at least for your units, to effectively command them way south into Greece. Okay, great. You guys can, yeah. I guess that's just... Okay, logistical warfare has advanced. Great. And we're going to stop that for now at least. Wait till sometime in 41 or something to do it again. There we go. And again, just to explain, I know I can explain some of my reasons why I do things. Why I focus here first. Well, not every unit has an armored unit in it. You know, not every division has one of these armored units in it. Not every division has a motorized, you know, type unit in it. And the infantry. Now, you know, obviously some of these, you know, Anzac and some specialty stuff are for other nations. But most every real sort of division, I try to have a reconnaissance unit, whether it is a armored car, motorized or cavalry reconnaissance or whatever. So most divisions have are affected by these, or they have units in them. Well, attack movements affects everybody also, where direct fire and support is only some of the units. Recon only affects, you know, that's the combined how much combined arms affecting or whatever is recon in a unit, you know. But almost every unit has a recon element to it. Artillery is another one that does have one that is in most divisions as well, and direct fire too. But this is sort of almost universal, if you will. So that is why I start here. And again, we have, you know, obviously German army is mostly an infantry army, so we have all this. But then what's often critical at times is our armor units. So all these are important, but that's sort of why I start here. So I'm going to have one section that's more up to date or whatever than the rest. It's these guys. Just my thoughts. Okay, the Great Dictator debuts. It is both a comedy and a very powerful moral tale. And compared to the earlier Three Stooges sort of movie, which I've watched a sort of Reader's Digest version of it, sort of a chopped up version on YouTube. I've seen this one a couple of times as well. It is worlds better, much bigger impact, and a very strong moral message, as well as lampooning the Nazis. And I mean, there's, I don't know if people always get it, but you know, what is that? What is that? And they call it the double cross. And if you don't know, just I know most of you probably know this, but to double cross somebody, to trick them, to say you're going to help them, but you really steal from them, if you know what I mean. Is to double cross somebody, to stab in the back, maybe, in a way, or whatever you want to call it. So they really, at sort of all levels, are lampooning the Nazis, as well as the very moral message, which I quote here, and I'm not going to read it all. I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That is not my business, and he goes into all that. So it's banned in Germany, of course. Like it ever really had a chance, but it hurts our relation with the U.S. Okay, French workers. This is French Workers 2. So we've had French Workers 1, because I recognize that there's a difference there. So, yep. So we're getting French Workers 2. Form the 20th Army Corps. Yes, please. The 12th Wella. Yes. Veteran Division. Yeah, we've got the money. No, we're sort of... well, let's see if we can sort of help that. Soviet Union, they need supplies, so offer trade agreement. Sell supplies, very likely. Big chunk of supplies being sold. To help that out. Good, that will help out. I mean, we're still massively, because we lost all those American markets. You guys here. There's your... Okay, under attack there. Home front focus reduces our manpower, but we've just had like those French focus and other, which are helping to balance things out, but costly, but of course more supplies, a provincial efficiency and repair rate. That is good. Very good. Is that industry? No, that's here. And yes, we're going to stop that for now. We'll be back. Don't know if I want to pay for those. Railway network. Yeah, supply throughput 20%. Yeah, we'll do that. Just okay, air defense network has advanced. That's very good. Just the supply. Now, this is cutting down supplies and cutting down manpower even more, but it's an artillery and doesn't have that. Okay, well, I don't know why it doesn't, but let's, or maybe there's another. Oh yeah, we'll keep this going. Okay. General Weygand inspects troops in Vichy Africa to avoid losing large parts of the French colonial empire in North and Western Africa to Gaullist-leaning governors or British-instigated coups. General Maximilian Weygand, the Vichy Minister of Defense, toured the colonies in Africa to swear in army officers and local administrators. It was equally essential to signal at the same time the Germans that the grip of Vichy on these territories was solid enough not to provoke a German intervention to prevent an Allied takeover. Yeah, and I completely look at Pierre Laval as a Nazi sympathizer, a complete collaborationist, even well after there's Pétain, well after any idea of trying to collaborate and help the Nazis, including help them collect Jews and other people, have long since fled the building from any reasonable reason to do that. He continues. And where Pétain, you can, and I think he does sort of sell out the French nation, but I can sympathize, whatever, with Pétain's idea that, hey, we've saved this much of, at this point, in 1940, we saved this much from being occupied, and we have assurances that, one, Hitler won't use our fleet for anything. Then, of course, Hitler's assurances are always trustworthy. We know that. And also generally sort of Hitler's assurances or whatnot that what is here occupied France, obviously this is now annexed by Germany, but what is occupied France, will it someday be back to being French? If de Gaulle and crew, or Pétain and crew, go along with this sort of Vichy thing. So I get Pétain's decision, and I'm not saying that's what I think he should have done, but I don't quite see him as the traitor. I see him as a capitulator. That's sort of kind of different. But and so this is why they're trying to control much more of Vichy France, because you have colonies down here. Vichy was fairly firmly in control in here, to the point that the British had to actually invade and conquer it. Vichy was control up here enough that, again, the French or the English had to invade and conquer it, to the point that one of the liberating, if you will, units was a Foreign Legion unit that was in the Free French camp, and it fought a Vichy Foreign Legion unit. The only time the French Foreign Legion has fought the French Foreign Legion was there. And so you get some of this stuff here going on. This is obviously, oh good, this did work, so that's all Japan now. Hopefully Japan is going in and occupying all of this territory well enough to push down in here later on, and into here once they get into the rest of the war. Republic in China looks pretty damn doomed. So you get some of that stuff, and for a while, these territories, especially Guadeloupe, was fairly Vichy for a while until the Americans, sort of stepped in there. But so you get some of that going on, and so I understand the Vichy stance in that sense. And what I've read is these, and people like Weygand knew that the Vichy units down here were cheating all to hell in their supposed disarmament or minimum amounts of troops. They were trying to raise troops and raise units to better defend the territory against future German intervention. But they were also trying to, and they knew that they needed to secure these territories, or if they didn't, Germany, as they ended up doing, will just come in and occupy everything. If France can't control its army, its air force, and you know, okay, you've talked about, and I don't know if there is, the Mers al-Kabed bombing at whatever is it outside of End? Where is that? I don't. It's somewhere here in North Africa, but it's a port. Mers al-Kabar or whatever, where the British sunk a bunch of French fleets they talked about earlier. The Vichy got together a bunch of bombers, actually American-made bombers that had been sent to France prior to the fall of France, if you will, and were still crated up at that point. And after, you know, Vichy took over as part of the Vichy Air Force, they took them out of the crates and assembled them. And then again, after the British attack there, they bombed Gibraltar. The Vichy French bombed the British. Historically, they did that. So yes, even though the Germans couldn't get their act together really to bomb Gibraltar, Vichy does. So yes, relations with Vichy changed by -5. Okay. And we need to allocate some more. So now let's come over here for more artillery. What do we? Oh, we have even more leadership. Okay. Yes, another almost half, or more than half. Okay, you guys come here, cut up and around here to Belgrade. No. Go to Belgrade. I want you to go that path. You also go that path. Belgrade. Again, I hate that image. I know I've said that every time we come up with this. That is a post-war fantasy image of some sort. I hate those kind of things. No, I mean, people can make those things, but I mean, we're putting it as a historical. I'm very strongly, very much want to. I want to use only images, photos that would have been of the period, or modern photos of period items that are from the war, that kind of thing, or modern photos of a period poster. Now, I totally understand, and I'm not against other people using correct modern things like like fairly correct. We saw a few episodes ago a still from the movie Das Boot. Those guys are all in the correct uniform. It all looks real. It's just obviously it's taken from a modern movie, but it's done correctly. It isn't a fantasy piece, or if you use some nice and I will sometimes use artistic. And I'm pretty sure it's wartime. I'm pretty sure it is wartime sort of group painting of Goering and a bunch of the other high-ranking Luftwaffe generals that were all put together, and I'm planning on using that for event pictures for if Luftwaffe High Command, as opposed to my sort of go-to would have been like the building or something like that, but that sort of would encapsulate who this, the High Command of the Luftwaffe, the general staff of the Luftwaffe or whatever, use that because I'm pretty sure that is a period painting, so I will use it. But hey, if someone wants to use a modern painting, that's, of Goering and crew, that's fine too. It's just what I choose not to do. That's different, in my opinion, than using something that's a fantasy piece. That's a fantasy piece. Okay, yes, but we will activate the SS paratroopers. Form LII, that's what, 52. Yes, we'll do that. Vichy reaction to Operation Catapult. Following the Operation Catapult, the Vichy military retaliation was conducted through ineffective air raid. Oh, see, here we go. On Gibraltar with no further consequences. I didn't say that they were very effective. They just did raid it. The Vichy regime utilized the event, and their propaganda made much use of the attack on the French fleet by the former British allies. Yeah, I've seen Signal, which was the sort of army, the magazine about the German armies, and sort of a picture magazine. They made a bunch of images, a bunch of versions, it's a photographic magazine, you know, there's articles and whatnot in it. But they made a version of it for a bunch of, for a period of time for the Channel Islands, so it's all in English. And so although I don't have any of the originals, of course, but I do have, there were 3 books made up of articles from it that were published years ago now. But so it's all in English, and it's German propaganda. And they did make a lot of the British attacking propaganda, and they used and put it heavily into France, but other places as well. By the British ally, typical of Vichy anti-British propaganda, was widely distributed pamphlet published in August 1940, written by a professional Anglophobe, entitled "Should England Be Reduced to Slavery?" The question in the title was merely rhetorical. Okay. So we're now getting a yes, okay, national revolt risk. Okay, so now come this way. Come on, take care of these guys, will you already? Guess one division left to be crushed. Swing out and around. No, down to here. Down to here, down to there. Okay, form another Geberg score? Sure. And another one? Wow, lots of these guys, cool. Nice photos. How are we doing up here in Sweden? Oh, you attack too. We want to get this over and done with. Take that. We're defending well here now that we're no longer also attacking. And hers can come in here and that. Falcon horse. Okay, well guys, let's look at the infrastructure map. Okay, so we can't go there, but we can come down this way. Well, at least we now have Finland in our alliance. Don't want to get Bulgaria. But Romania jumped in awfully early, so a victory point, I think, right? Do we want to hold that yet? I suspect once we get these two, once we get all of them, we win. I like Sweden as intact as you can get it. Okay, submarine damage control, that's improved, that's great. That's grayed out, so it allows us to shift more over here to artillery. Okay, good. Good going, Hungarians. You've done very well. Normally I don't have you active in the war this early, so normally are peaceable, but I brought you in because Slovakia needed help, and you've been doing pretty well. Okay, yes. That way. Okay, now what we need to do is, where is all these guys? See, all of you, get on trains and come down here. We may need you fighting in Greece because we'll have another full set of mountains to deal with. Particularly, I don't need all the infantry groups, but I need a transport unit. That's what you're missing. Just take that out. Yeah, Greeks, you should start heading back home and preparing for your own defense. Oh, you're still defending. Oh, you're still defending. No one's bothering to attack you. Okay, well, there's one here. Now I am seeing some supply problems, so, well, supply range? Yes! Just barely, but it's in supply range from Berlin, or almost at Berlin, or whatever. Send in the supply, that's why I love those planes. Sorry, we should build more. Okay, Operation Loge, light damage, okay. Damage forts on the Maginot Line, no need of repairs, they're useless now. Keep the forts now, we're going to no need of repairs. I think that, or part of that element, well, maybe increase some of those captured weapons there? I don't know specifically those are increase now. Isn't there? Maybe it's going to come up. Not a lot of defenses here. They're waiting for fuel and supplies. Send it to Paris, get the trains running. Look at the revolt risk, I'm curious by all the modifiers. Okay, so with all the modifiers up and down and whatever, we're at 0 now. Okay. How interesting. This is here, we're at Black Ice. Access minimum revolt risk. Okay, so it's at the half point here. Yeah, I'm just conflicted about that. You know, you had the situation where Denmark was through most of the war There was just no active resistance. It was just, you know, there was maybe organizing resistance cells and things, and there was quite a bit of that to my knowledge. But if the British, say, flew in a bunch of supplies, you know, okay, fine, thank you, go away. The Danes didn't do anything like that, any sort of resistant activity, until late 44 or something, and then there was that national uprising throughout Denmark. Because they just didn't feel like, yeah, no, we don't need to blow up our bridges or do whatever. There wasn't major, I mean, there was the, and it did, I think, keep in operation somewhat the Madsen Armaments Company, and it contributed in many ways to the German war effort, but it wasn't so much the major thing. But they just sort of peacefully went on with their lives, where we see a lot more resistance over in these countries. Partially, I do think, because the British could get at them, and do some of that stuff. But so you do have some areas in which there just is no active resistance. But other areas, it's sort of like there may be a lot of modifying effects, military government, and other things like that here, that would affect it, but just with enough overall effects, and I could understand you don't want just the feared police headquarters or something, you know, one building reducing all revolt risk everywhere. I totally get that, but the idea that with enough occupation troops of the right types, that you suffocate any sort of resistance is what I guess would be a good way of putting it. Oh, good, we got that. We got that. Now we just need to take this. And we're done. We can stop. Yes, we want self-propelled artillery. Okay, U.S. influence on Vichy, North Africa. U.S. influence in Vichy, North Africa. U.S. position towards Vichy and de Gaulle was especially hesitant and inconsistent. President Roosevelt disliked Charles de Gaulle, whom he regarded as an apprentice dictator. Robert Murphy, Roosevelt's representative in North Africa, started preparing for an arrangement with Vichy France in North Africa to eventually bring back its forces into the war against Germany in December 40, a year before the U.S. entered the war. In February 1941, Murphy negotiated the Murphy-Weygand Agreement, which allowed the United States to export to French North Africa in spite of the British blockade and trade restrictions against the Vichy governed area. In autumn of 1942, at President Franklin Roosevelt's behest, Murphy instigated conditions in French North Africa in preparations for the Allied landings, Operation Torch, the first major Western Allied ground offensive during World War II. He was appointed President Roosevelt's personal representative with the rank of Minister to French North Africa. Murphy made contact with various French army officers in Algiers and recruited them to support the Allies' invasion of French North Africa, or when the invasion of French North Africa came, yes. This is sort of like, we're not the British. You can be friends with us, and you don't have to be friends with the British, kind of thing. Because, as probably most of you know, yeah, I think it's true that the two people most like to be at war with each other are the British and French. I mean, they're the natural enemies of each other, Britain and France. The British people and the French people should be at war with each other. It's just the natural way of things. And you're probably thinking that I'm just being silly or funny. No, I'm not. You can look at throughout history, these two countries are the sort of longest, the 100 Years' War, the second 100 Years' War. After a few hundred years at war with each other, it's like, who are we going to fight? Each other. I mean, that's the natural sort of thing. Britain did have a policy of not wanting to see hegemony in Europe. So once it looked like Germany was going to get hegemony, or you sort of mess with their sort of puppet state, the Belgians, which is sort of there to counteract the French, you start pissing off the English and they'll fight the Germans. And this is sort of why Hitler, with his limited reading of history, thought the English were natural allies of the Germans. It's not so much that as they're the natural enemies of the French. And the French, of course, like to fight the English. So that's sort of the natural thing. Now, fortunately, unfortunately, whatever, I don't know which one, since they both have nuclear weapons, they sort of destroy each other. So it's no longer just contained to, the Battle of Waterloo, Fontenoy, or one of the other many battlefields in which you can have it, or out at sea with the British sinking the French fleet repeatedly. So it's no longer contained to just sort of neat sporting events, battles somewhere. Yes, they cost lives, and they're tragic for those who have to go through all of that, wounded, killed, whatnot. But otherwise, it's just sort of the good, the French and the English get to fight each other. But see, even though we are Anglo-Americans here, we're not the British, so you don't have to hate us. We can be your friends. So that's sort of what's going on here with this sort of propaganda effort. This is going to be interesting. We got to get some transports down here, so we got to fill this area with stiffening units here. Now, on this bit about apprentice dictator, I don't think Charles de Gaulle wanted to be a Napoleon the First, the Third, whatever, and of course he very much didn't want to be the King of France. So he really wasn't an apprentice dictator. He wanted a stronger presidential France, shall we say, than a cabinet-driven France or something like that. Much closer to the, I think, U.S. model. Now, again, I watched a while ago I only watched part of it. What is it? The Pity and the Sorrow, I think it's called. I want to watch it. It's a French documentary about this time period in Vichy France and the Free French and all this stuff going on. And it really sort of paints de Gaulle as using this sort of absolutism and demanding to be respected as the head of state when he was just the youngest general, I believe. When he left, when he deserted, and not just that kind of guy, and where before he like in 39, before the war starts, the youngest general in the French army is like 60-some years old. That's the youngest one. Not in the 40s or 50s, but he, gets to be promoted to general before he deserts to the French. And then he runs around and claims to be representing the French government, and you must treat him as head of state. You must do honor. And that really comes from his position of weakness, both in his lack of legitimacy. Some of the French government, who was it? One of them had a car accident while he was sort of trying to flee, and others were arrested to keep from, because Petain's ordered not to let any of them out. But some of the recent ministers and prime ministers, within the because hey, it's been 60 days. We gotta get a new French government in. It was sort of almost going that fast and collapsing and shifting and whatnot. So premierships and who knows, and I can't keep them all track even when I just read a book on them. Who was who and what party was what and whatnot. But some were trying to get out of France. maybe to set up a government in exile, or maybe just they're worried about what the Nazis are going to do to them, because some of them are of different parties, and they're sort of mostly contained into France. So this isn't even, you know, so de Gaulle really doesn't have governmental succession authority for the French. So he's at this weakness versus the French. He's at a weakness versus the Allies, in that he, at least at the start, doesn't have any territory. And then the territories he gets are, you know, yeah, Dakar, and he has, you know, a couple of battalions of, you know, French infantry and a bunch of, you know, native type troops of one sort or another. And so he's really this sort of stickler, this sort of very unpleasant person, if you will, because of this weakness. And I think it's much more because of that, as I come to understand this, than the sort of jovial, get along, be nice, we'll work things out kind of guy that could have worked with Roosevelt or other people better. But he was really trying to stick up for the honor of France with his sort of activities and his behavior. So that is important to note. But he really wasn't trying to become a dictator. Okay, relations between U.S. and Vichy. Yeah, relations. Okay, so our relations worsen with Vichy, and they improve with America. We've already got them into our factions, so that's helping us with that. Okay, well. When you come this way, just in case we need you, might as well keep you moving forward. Yes, we would like you to keep those battleships. Wow, there's quite a lot of coastal battleships, actually. And you guys, oh, you're probably going to go out. Well, that would suck, wouldn't it, if they go out to the Allies? Those are, okay, British destroyers. Stop attacking. I want you, if you can, to survive. Hopefully go somewhere else. Hopefully you'll go to a nice port and collaborate with me. Okay, Tactical Air Command has advanced. Good. Reducing some of those attacking penalties. Yes, okay, we've got to where we sort of want to be there at the moment. Yeah, we'll improve interception tactics. And basing advance. So that should mean that we only have marine, well, marine activation we're looking at. We only have underway replenishment, which we are doing, and it's probably going to take a long time. But at least we're doing it, and we got all the rest for marine needs here. But where's underway replenishment? Yeah, November 41. Okay. Now that'll get a little better once we get into 41, which is very soon. So, like I say, that'll get a little better. Oh, let's look at designation, basing. Let's shift this, shifting more of this down to here. Okay. General Antonescu in Berlin, please excuse the sort of these were taken from a bound newspaper from a thing, and at least applied to me via Vlad Virgil. So, and I could do a better swastika flag up there. Some of them, when you shrink them down, they don't do so well. I just got to find a better example of that. Romanian Prime Minister Antonescu paid a visit to Berlin between the 22nd and 25th of November 1940. He met with the Fuhrer and discussed for over 3 hours. Should we agree with this very favorable deal for the Reich, which we will receive the most needed oil and food supplies in exchange for some military equipment and structures? So, will cost us supplies, metal and energy quite a lot, which they sort of need, and then they'll also get an event to help them out, or we have other plans. We will do this. Support for our allies, Vichy Madagascar. Okay, yes, so we're going to send aid to Vichy Madagascar. This only will happen once, so you want to take it. It doesn't hardly cost anything. But the big thing that it does, well, the radar station is really cool, but the air bases is what's sort of needed because there aren't any down here, and there were, and it's easier for me to make an event than it is for me to edit the map in a mod type situation. I do edit the maps in some ways and some stuff, but okay, yeah, come through Sarajevo and push down. Okay, enough. This needs saving. This is not fair, but we want to come in and take that capital. How are we on the surrender? Okay, pretty good. That's capital. Then we're done with the Swedes for taking them. Okay, how many hours until you can attack? 13. Okay, well, go as soon as you can. We're still supplying, flying air support, flying in supplies, I think, to there. Okay, twin engine bomber crew layout has advanced. Cool. Here, oh no, that is here. Crew layout for that. Does help flying boats, but guess we'll just move it more into here and do direct fire. Again, like I say, Hitler loves this sort of map, and you know, yeah, I love maps too, and all this stuff. But what is he really, you know, like? Well, this you should move the division over to here. Here, see, this is the place, and you know, and you should attack. You know, what is he really looking at? Anything sort of more detailed than you've seen all the pictures of sort of the organization room kind of thing for the Battle of Britain, where they have the women that are moving. You see, it's a way to sort of show for the movies, but showing the incoming groups of bombers and the Spitfires up in there. Anything more than this sort of general type of map. And just sort of showing, well, we're occupying here, okay, and we're moving. These are, that he's sort of concentrating over. It looks like, what? how many tons can this bridge take, or just it's that everybody's leaning over, and obviously I'm sure Churchill did this too. I'm sure, well, it can't quite lean over like this, but FDR or something. But this is just very indicative of Hitler and the way he's trying to run the war. Okay, Hitler Directive number 18 was issued on the 12th of November 1940. It mainly concerned the eventual German future participation in the support of adjusting position here. Italian operations in and around the Mediterranean. The Hitlerite directive were a mixture of general information and a warning of eventual future actions and orders for planning and preparation. Hitler ordered in this directive inter alia that a panzer division to be prepared to move to North Africa. However, this was cancelled after the Italian advanced into Egypt in Operation E. I presume E stands for Egypt. Okay, well, we'll sort of leave some of that in there for now. We do need to shift down some fighters now that we have this here. Better deal with bombers. Oh, I did say, and I forgot to. Damn, I did forget to. Okay. Help the Italians out with air power. And I really didn't need to do that. Okay, you need to get repaired. You're alone. Let's get somebody not alone. Okay. Yes, these desert air bases aren't very big. Well, there we go. We'll put you guys out to bomb. Okay. Yes, supplies. And we'll also see if we can sell you more supplies. But pick up some of our deaths instead. Okay, you can occupy there. You keep moving forward. Moving forward. You keep coming forward. You come in to help keep the partisans at bay. Okay, commander decision making has improved for the Navy. Let's shift that over to here. Molotov and Hitler. Negotiations between Molotov and Hitler in Berlin. The USSR require influence in Poland, Turkey, and military bases in the Bosphorus and Dardanelles. This would likely lead to Soviet expansion and occupation in these countries and endanger the Reich. So this is sort of interesting. When I learned about some of this, this was provided by George, 1941, but I went in and looked at it a bit more. You know, they've got the Hitler or the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact, and sort of dividing up the Europe here along this fine, and then the one sort of is the swap for Lithuania for this part of Poland. But now that Stalin's got that, he needs more. He needs more influence in Finland. Not just what he got in the Winter War, but he needs more. He needs to get German approval, because even at this point, Bulgaria is effectively in the Axis. He needs to get bases in Turkey. And if Turkey won't comply, which Bosphorus, Dardanelles, you're going to have Soviet bases sitting down in here? You really think Turkey is going to comply? Really? It's just a Soviet excuse and wanting permission from the Nazis for the Soviet invasion of Turkey and another Soviet invasion, now that the weather's better, or once the weather gets better, of Finland. So this is really Stalin going to continue to push to get everything he can get, and it isn't going to stop. And now Hitler doesn't approve any of this, so it doesn't go anywhere, but it sort of disrupts our relations a little bit with the Soviet Union, and it helps our relations out with the other nations. Antonescu meets Mussolini in Rome. Okay, this is interesting. Italy's strategic interest towards Romania was always dominated by its great dependency on supply with Romanian oil. After the deployment of German divisions in Romania in September 1940, the Italian dictator Mussolini felt pressured to maintain an independent foreign policy towards Romania. Of great German interest was the quietness in the Balkans, not motivating Stalin to intervene in a rivalry between Balkan states and Hungary, Bulgaria, and Romania. Any turbulence there would possibly give the Soviets a pretext to complicate our preparations for a planned war against the Soviet Union. In November 1940, Marshal Antonescu arrives in Italy to discuss the Romanian perspectives given the critical political situation. This visit came short of the official entrance of Romania into the tripartite pact. So, welcome to Rome. Very interesting. I did not know this, but cool. Yeah, I can learn a lot too from these things, and I really appreciate that. Okay, British air raid on Toronto. This is very important. Our intelligence service reports that the Royal Navy launched the first all-aircraft ship-to-ship naval attack in history, deploying a small number of obsolescent ferry swordfish biplane torpedo bombers from the aircraft carrier Illustrious in the Mediterranean Sea. The attack struck the battle fleet of the Regia Marina at anchor in the harbor of Toronto using aerial torpedoes despite the shallowness of the water. Yeah, they sort of thought that because when you drop a torpedo, it sort of goes under the water, you know, down a ways kind of thing, and they thought that before it sort of comes back up and levels off, they thought that the water was too shallow for that. But devastation wrought by the British carrier-launched aircraft on the Italian warships seems to be the beginning of the ascendancy of naval aviation over big gun battleships. The losses and the impact of this operation will influence the Italian resolve to challenge British position in the Mediterranean significantly. Okay, what the fuck? Okay, so okay, United Kingdom gets national unity, naval organization, Italian national unity, naval organization, and basic efficiency down until 41. Okay, so, okay, that's good. At least they didn't remove ships from the situation here. Yeah, it was very important. It sunk some battleships in port, so they're weren't lost. I don't think any of them were, because, you know, nope, the Italians have landed in Cyprus. Well, great. I still haven't gotten any ships in the Mediterranean to send any units even to Vichy or... the one people looked at this really closely and figured out how to duplicate it was Japan. And they attacked Oahu, Pearl Harbor. And partially by simply adding extra sort of wooden fins to the backs of torpedo, you know, the torpedo, so that when they go in the water they don't go too deep. Because Pearl is a similarly shallow port. And a lot of times those ships that are sunk to the bottom of the harbor, but the harbor isn't deep, so they're quite repairable. But it may take a year to repair them. I mean, it's not like they're, you know, back in action in a few days, but sometimes they were. Okay, well, we're going to end the episode here. I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. I really do appreciate that. And, of course, please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, corrections. Love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.